Maendeleo, the country which God has blessed with abundant natural wealth like oil, diamonds, platinum, copper, gemstones, and gold. Its land is capable of feeding the entire continent of Africa, and its natural beauty can make Maendeleo the #1 tourist destination in the world. Then, why is this rich African nation still economically poor? We'll find out right now if our nation needs a new leader when these two candidates face off for the first time. President Joseph Matata versus Miss Malaika Amani. Now, from FaceOff Studios, Tom Akili.
Good evening, everyone. From FaceOff Studios, I'm Bolden Akili of FaceOff News, and I will be the moderator of this debate today. Welcome to the first televised debate between President Joseph Matata and Ms. Malaika Amani. President Matata is the current president of Maendeleo. He was born on March 2nd, 1934 in Maendeleo. He holds a master's degree in public administration from Maendeleo University. And from 1980 to 1989, he served as the Minister of Finance. In 1990, he was appointed as Prime Minister. He served as a Prime Minister from 1990 to 1995. He was elected the President in the 1996 presidential election. Ms. Malaika Amani was born on August 14, 1967, and educated at Maendeleo University Law School, where she received her Juris Doctorate degree. Ms. Amani has had a distinguished career as a lawyer and an entrepreneur. She is the founder and CEO of M. Amani Law Firm. M. Amani is one of the largest and successful law firms in Africa. Ms. Amani also serves on the board of directors of Women Power, University of Maendeleo, People's Bank, Watoto Hospital, Farmers Microfinance Bank, and Maendeleo for Children. President Matata and Ms. Amani, welcome to Face Off Studios.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Following the order determined by the drawing, the first question goes to President Matata. Most people inside and outside of our country say corruption is one of the big obstacles of our socio-economic development. If elected again, what will you do to solve this problem?
First of all, I would like to thank the people of Maendeleo for giving me an opportunity to serve this country over the past 10 years. Thank you very much. Regarding your question, my government has been fighting corruption since the first day of my office in 1996. My first month in office, I created an anti-corruption team, which has done a good job in the war against corruption so far. Our government is more transparent today than 10 years ago. Our law enforcement are better paid, better trained, and better equipped to fight corruption today than 10 years ago. According to a survey done by an international institution, this has shown that we are doing better today in the war against corruption. My fellow citizens, this is a difficult war. It's going to take time for us to declare victory. If elected again, I will continue to promote accountability and transparency throughout our government. I will strengthen our legal and judicial systems. I will also continue to build stronger partnerships with society, with civil society, the business community, and media in order to fight the roots of corruption.
Ms. Amani, if elected, what will you do to solve this problem?
Thank you, Mr. Akili. Thank you, the people of Maendeleo. This is a very special day to me and many women in this country. Because for the first time in the history of our country, a woman is running for the most powerful office in the country, the president of Maendeleo. And not running for symbolic reasons, but to win. My fellow citizens, corruption is one of the worst enemies of this country. And if you want to have a reliable survey of corruption, Mr. President, ask the people of Maendeleo and not international institutions. If elected, my government will have zero tolerance to anybody who give or receive corruption. I will make mandatory for all government officials to declare their wealth every single year. There will be no room for a corrupt official in my government. I will work closely with the media to expose corrupt leaders and at the same time educate the public about this issue. My fellow citizens, most of the corruptions which affect our socio-economic development take place on the highest level of our government. And that is why it is very important in this election to elect a leader who is committed to fight corruption from the top down. I will be that kind of a leader. I promise you to strengthen the central and local government and have strong, fair, transparent, legal and judicial system to fight corruption. My fellow citizens, our leaders have failed to improve our quality of life. Today, I am asking you to vote out selfish, greed, arrogant, and corrupt leaders who have betrayed our trust. It is time for new leaders with new solutions for our challenges.
Mr. President, more than half of our people who will vote in this election are women. But we are still having gender equality in Maendeleo. What will you do to make sure all of our citizens of this country are treated equal regardless of gender?
Well, just give me one moment to warn Ms. Amani about slander. Getting back to your question, this problem is not facing only Maendeleo, but many countries in the world. There are many reasons why there is gender inequality in our society, including religious, cultural, and historical reasons. In Maendeleo, the first thing my government has done is to educate the people of our country about the importance of the role of women in the socio-economic development of this country. This education program is ongoing. It's an ongoing process, and we know that it will take time to change the minds of our people. It will also take time to change our culture regarding the relationship between man and woman. I have asked the faith-based organizations, schools, media, and community leaders to join us in educating our people in the rights and the importance of women in our communities. In the past 10 years, we have launched many programs to educate women about their rights and how to protect them if these rights are violated. Secondly, with help of our foreign donors, our government has started different women's economic empowerment programs to help women to come out of poverty.
Women empowerment?
Yes, women empowerment.
No, Mr. President. What we have in our country is not women empowerment. It's the enrichment of the few who control these programs at the expenses of millions of women. For years, our country has received money from donors to help women, but the elites of this country and foreign consultants have benefited at the expense of poor mothers and daughters of our country.
That's your opinion.
That is not my opinion, but that is a fact, Mr. President.
Look, many women of Maendeleo have benefited from our empowerment programs.
Mr. President, how many women have benefited since the government started these programs? How many women has your government helped to come out of poverty?
Are you trying to make this election to be women against men?
No, I'm not.
So what are you doing?
But you did not answer my question, Mr. President. You did not answer my question. How many women has your government empowered or helped them to come out of poverty?
Many.
Give us a number.
Look, I don't have a specific number right now.
Mr. President, you don't have the number because you have given many promises to men and women of this country, but you have not delivered your promises.
I have.
Let me finish.
I'm telling you I have.
Let me finish, Mr. President. You and your elite friends are greedy of power, and you will never truly empower the people of this country. That's why I'm asking the people of this country to stand up and speak out against greedy and corrupt leaders. And most importantly, vote you and your friends out of the office.
The people of Maendeleo will not vote me out. I will be president of this country until I decide to retire. I am the top boss in this country.
Mr. President, the people of this country are fed up with you and your administration, and they are hungry for a change and a better life. The boss mentality will not work in this 21st century. Today, our country needs, 1, a leader who will inspire and empower them. Secondly, a leader who uses the power entrusted to him or her for the public good. Third, a committed and responsible leader. And last, a visionary leader who will produce results.
Well, let's move to another question. Ms. Amani, do you think Maendeleo is ready for a woman president?
Yes.
Why?
Before I answer your question, Mr. Akili, I would like to say this. It is sad that since our independence more than 30 years ago, our country has never elected a woman president. It is sad that in all the continent of Africa, only one woman has been democratically elected as a president of a nation, of an African nation. It is sad that United Nations, which preaches about gender equality, has never elected a woman as Secretary General of the UN. But this is about to change here in our country. Our people, especially the voiceless mothers and daughters, are tired of leaders who are corrupt, arrogant, and don't care about this nation.
Let's be careful about slander.
And its people, Mr. President, let me finish. They are tired of leaders who enrich themselves and live like kings, while majority of its citizens live in poor conditions. They are tired of politicians like you, Mr. President, President Matata, who give many promises and good speeches but don't deliver.
I have worked hard. I have worked hard to deliver my promises. But this is a tough job.
No one is saying this is an easy job. But if you cannot deliver your promises, you need to step down or be voted out of the office. Bottom line is, leaders must produce results. My fellow citizens, our government is lacking of servant leaders. Leaders who care and are committed to the socio-economic development of all people. Most of our leaders really act like our former colonial masters. The only difference is the color of their skin. I believe people are ready for a new breed of visionary and humble servant young leaders to lead this country. In my heart, I know that men and women of this nation will support my vision, which is better quality of life for all, regardless of gender, religion, or ethnic background. Together, men and women, we can bring hope and prosperity to every house, every village, and every community in our country.
Now, Mr. President, same question. Do you think the people of Maendeleo are ready for a woman president?
To tell you the truth, I don't know. I think it's up to the people of Maendeleo to decide. But with the world facing the war on terror, I don't think this is a good time to have a weak candidate like Miss Amani.
You see, Mr. President, you still have the same old mentality that women are weak and they cannot lead. Mr. President, never underestimate the power of the woman. I will protect this country by all means. My fellow citizens, you and I know that our biggest threat to our national security is poverty.
The war on terror is an international war. All countries in the world, including Maendeleo, must fight against these terrorists.
I'm against the terrorists, Mr. President, but I believe the best way...
You don't sound like it.
I believe the best way to fight the war on terror is through dialogue and eradication of poverty. Using forces to solve today's problem is the ideology of coward leaders. Dialogue is the ideology of peacemaker and courageous leaders. My fellow citizens, war creates enemies, but dialogue creates friends. My administration will create friends, not enemies.
Mr. Amani, do you think the war on terror would be among your top priorities?
No. My top priority will be the war on poverty. The reason why the war on terror will not be among my top priorities is because many times, many times, we have fought wars that are not our own wars. A good example is the Cold War. Cold War was not our war. It was a war between two superpowers. But African countries were full soldiers of either the West or the East. My fellow citizens, we must not repeat the same mistakes our leaders made during the Cold War. Fight somebody else's war and lose the war at home. Again, my government will support the international effort in the war on terror, but the war against poverty in our country will be my top priority. And I hope dialogue and eradication of poverty in the war will also be the top priorities of Western countries, because dialogue and eradication of poverty are long-term solutions on war on terror.
New question. Ms. Amani, do you think Western countries should pay for Maendeleo and other African countries for slavery and colonialism?
Mr. Akili, I believe in my heart that the countries, the companies, the institutions which have benefited and profited from slavery, slave trade, and colonialism should compensate Africans and African descendants. It is their moral duty to recognize the damage and crimes committed by their ancestors and pay us for those damages. Now, I know there's no amount of money that will actually pay for the killing of our brothers and sisters, the exploitation of our people, the exploitation of our resources, the psychological damages, the stripping of our identity, and the terrorization of our people, bodies and mind. But still, Africans and African descendants must be compensated. And it does not have to be in terms of money. There are many ways they can compensate us.
Do you blame slavery and colonialism for Africa's problems today?
No, I want to make that very clear. Africans' problem and failure today are not only because of slavery and colonialism. Most of these problems and failures are due to bad leadership in the continent. After our independence from the colonial masters, our leaders have mismanaged, destroyed, and underdeveloped our continent.
Mr. President, same question. Do you blame slavery, colonialism for Africans' problems today?
Oh, yes. I blame slavery and colonialism without hesitation for our social and economic problems today. Slave masters and colonial rulers destroyed and exploited our continent. That's a known fact.
Mr. President, don't blame other people or slavery and colonialism for your own failures. Your government act like the colonial rulers. My fellow Africans, let us stand up and speak up against these corrupt and bad leaders. We must make them accountable for African social and economic failures.
I am not a corrupt leader.
But you are leading a corrupt system, Mr. President.
I am not a corrupt leader.
But you're leading the corrupt system.
Look here. Don't you dare distort my record.
Mr. President, not only that your government system is a corrupt system, it's also a failed system. If Maendeleo was a company, it would be bankrupt and out of business long time ago. And you will be out of work.
Let's move to another question. Ms. Amani, your campaign speeches, and in your campaign speeches, you have promised to improve the quality of life for people of Maendeleo if elected. How are you going to do this?
Thank you, Mr. Akili. I'm glad you asked that question. First, I want the people to know that I'm not a savior and I cannot change this country by myself. The development of this country is the responsibility of all citizens. Today, I am asking you, my fellow citizens, especially my fellow young people, to use your knowledge, skills, talent, wisdom, and capital, energy to bring changes in our nation. I believe we, the youth, can be the agents of change in Maendeleo. That's why I believe that the most important natural resources of our country is not oil, gold, or other gemstones. It's the people of this country. Therefore, the goal of my government is to empower our people and work with them to improve the quality of their lives. We will put more efforts in human development by investing more government resources in education and health sectors. Next, in order to have sustainable economic growth, our country needs healthier and well-educated citizens. We will make sure that our institutions provide quality educations, training, and skills needed for our people to compete in the global economy.
Ms. Amani, you don't seem to know anything about the global economy. In order to be successful in this global economy, our country needs foreign investors.
I know how global economy works. My fellow citizens, my government will make sure that our country is the destination of local and foreign investors. But my government will not allow foreign companies to exploit our country's resources. We will welcome them, but their business relationship with Maendeleo must be a win-win situation. We will also create a good environment to do business right here in our country, especially for local entrepreneurs, and give more support to small and medium-sized businesses, which will be the backbone of our economy. Now let me say this loud and clear, that my government will inspire and empower our local entrepreneurs because they are our primary engine for our economic growth, job creation, and wealth creation. Next, we will also improve our infrastructures, especially roadways, railways, air transport, ports, and electric power.
Those are all good, but what about our farmers?
Mr. President,
what about our farmers?
You're not letting me finish. We will help our farmers to transform our agricultural sector. Our farmers cannot continue to practice the same old farming methods our grandparents practiced more than 100 years ago. Our country must feed itself and export more value-added products. Instead of exporting cotton, we will export clothes. Instead of exporting hides, we will export leather. Instead of exporting fruits, we will export fruit juices. My dear citizens, we are living in the 21st century, the century which is driven by knowledge and information and innovation. We have to think beyond agriculture. We must have a big vision and a new approach in addressing our challenges. That is why, if elected, my government will have a 30-year strategic plan for our country to become a knowledge-driven economy. Because in order to achieve this vision, my government, first, will reform our education system to make sure our schools and universities provide the best quality education in the continent. We will train and hire high-quality teachers and pay them very well. My government will increase our investment in research and development and in information and communication technology and create the right environment for creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Most important, we will invest in our people. We need skilled and knowledge workers to make a smooth transition to a knowledge-driven economy. I believe a knowledge-driven economy will help to speed our country to modernize our farming methods, improve our manufacturing industries, increase productivity in our private sectors, and effectiveness and efficiency of our government. My fellow citizens, through knowledge and innovation, vibrant entrepreneurship and trade, Maendeleo will be able to create more jobs, generate wealth, increase income, and above all, improve the quality of our citizens. It can be done. The only thing we're lacking is leadership. That's why I'm asking you for your vote. There will be no economic miracle here. We must have visionary leaders who can work with you to build this economy. The political will of my government, strong private sector, and your determination will help our country to achieve our main goal, that is better quality of life for all people of Maendeleo. My fellow citizens, it is our responsibility to develop this nation. It is our responsibility to develop this nation. Let's work together to build a strong, united, peaceful, and prosperous country.
You said that Maendeleo will export more value-added products. But what about international trade rules, which are not fair to African countries?
Mr. Akili, we cannot sit down and wait for the World Trade Organization to change its policies. It is time for Africans to diversify our economies and process our raw materials and trade more with each other. We need to open our markets and remove the barriers of trade with each other in Africa. If elected the president of this country, I'm planning to work with other African countries to launch a Buy African Made campaign. This campaign, we ask Africans to buy African products. I hope other African countries will support these initiatives.
I agree with Ms. Amani that we need to trade with each other more. But one obstacle we are facing right now is poor infrastructure. We have to invest more in our infrastructure.
Mr. President, for 10 years, you have done very little to improve our poor infrastructure.
Ms. Amani, the government does not have enough money to build these infrastructures. We are hoping, just hoping, maybe, that the donors will give us more money this year to build some of our infrastructures.
Mr. President, you are addicted to foreign aid.
I am not.
You are. Why don't we use our revenues from natural resources like oil, gold, and diamonds to build infrastructures?
You see, she's flat wrong. She is flat wrong. I am not addicted to foreign aid. You see, we don't have enough money from gold, diamonds, and all the other mineral resources to support our government, to support all government needs, including infrastructure improvement.
Mr. President, you need to face the truth. The reason we don't get enough money is because you and your corrupt government did not negotiate the win-win contract with the mining and oil companies. The only people who benefited from this contract are international mining and oil companies. These bad contracts for our country are a reflection of your poor leadership. The natural resources belong to the people of this nation. If elected, I will make sure that the people of this country, who are the owners of these minerals and natural resources, benefit from them. My administration will put the interests of our people first.
Can I?
Well, just one moment. Ms. Amani, what about half of the budget of Maendeleo depending on foreign aid? Don't you think it would be hard to fulfill your dream, a better quality of life for all?
This is not my dream alone. A better life is the dream of every citizen in our country. My goal is to make sure that their dreams come true. My fellow citizens, we must be the architect of our own future. We need to solve our own problems and need to stop depending on the Western countries. We cannot say we are an economically free country while 50% of our budget depends on foreign aid. We must use all of our means to free our nation from economic dependency and get rid of leaders who are still suffering from dependency syndrome. Like I said before, we have the resources and means to be successful and solve this problem of dependency on foreign aids. What our country needs is visionary servant leaders who love and care about this country.
Mr. President, Ms. Amani said that we are not economically free. We're not an economically free country if about 50% of our budget depends on foreign donors. Mr. President, is Maendeleo free?
Yes, without a doubt, Maendeleo is a free country. We make our own decisions. Of course, sometimes we ask Western countries or our donors for advice. But believe me, they are not making decisions on our behalf.
Nonsense. Most of this money comes with conditions and policies, Mr. President. They tell us what is good for us. For example, they force us to open our market. Why they don't give us fair access to their market? It is a shame to let outsiders drive and lead our development. We have to stop this bus, which is going in the wrong direction, and put our own driver who has a vision for the people of Maendeleo. Mr. President, do you think United States, Britain, France, or Germany will listen to us if we tell them how they should spend their money or how the economic system should work? I believe they think we are crazy because they know that the solution of a nation or community must come from within that society.
Ms. Amani, this is the 21st century, and we are living in an interdependent world. Western countries are our partners in this global interdependent economy.
Mr. President, how can a country be a true partner if she still depends on Western countries, IMF, and World Bank? How can our country be true partner when there is still injustice in the global economy? How can our country, or any African country for that matter, be a true partner when Africa's share of world trade export is less than 3%? We must have economic freedom first in order to participate as an equal partner in an interdependent world. Come on, Mr. President, open your eyes. We are not true partner in this global economy.
Please let me.
Mr. President, is it true that your government has been forced to privatize some of its services as a condition for getting aid?
No, they did not force us. They gave us advice.
Mr. President, they gave you conditions, not advice. Western countries, World Bank, or IMF cannot continue to tell us what type of economic or social reform we need. We know and understand our challenges better. And I believe the solutions of our challenges must come from within our country.
Ms. Amani, if elected the president of Maendeleo, would you stop working with them?
No. I will continue to work with them. But I will tell them that now it's time for us to graduate from their lectures. Their advice and lectures has not eradicated poverty in Maendeleo. And we also ask them to stop their policies and actions which damage our country. I pledge to the people of this nation that I will not be a puppet leader.
Look, I am not a puppet leader, Miss Amani.
Maybe you are, maybe you're not.
I am not.
Maybe you are, maybe you're not, but you are running this country like one, Mr. President.
I am not.
Time out, please. Time out. The question goes to President Matata. Mr. President, the G8 countries have agreed to cancel some of the third world countries' debt, included Maendeleo.
Please, we are not a third world country. Who decided which is first or third world country? We have to stop using the words which destroy our people, self-esteem, and make us inferior compared to Western countries.
I see your point. Thank you, Ms. Amani. I will not refer to Maendeleo as third world country again. Back to my question, Mr. President. Do you think G8 countries have done enough to help Maendeleo and other African countries?
I believe the leaders of the G8 countries have realized that we are living in a new world. The world in which the problems of African countries can affect not only Africa, but all other countries in the world. And the prosperity of African countries is good for the rest of the world. Yes, they have forgiven some of the debt, but this is not enough. They need to cancel all the debts of all African countries and increase aid to our countries.
I believe that they need
Let me speak. You had your turn. Like I was saying, this will help our countries to improve our socio-economic development. Every year, our country spends large sums of money, a large percentage of our budget to pay the debt. They must cancel all the debts so that we can invest these monies in improving our infrastructures, schools, hospitals, and above all, the quality of life for the people of this country.
And Ms. Amani, do you think G8 countries have done enough to help African countries?
I believe that they need to go beyond canceling the debt and stop trade injustice.
You see, you don't know, you don't
Just
really...
one
They
moment.
need to stop trade injustice. Just canceling the debt is not enough. They know that canceling the debt and giving aid is not enough for
But
creation
you
of
don't
wealth
understand.
Hold on,
and
Mr. President.
improving the quality of life for people in Africa. If they are truly committed to a true partnership with African countries, they must also reform their trade rules and policies. Fair trade and not aid is one of the most important long-term solutions of African economic development. Look at South Korea, China, India, Malaysia, and other Asian countries. They have improved their economies, not through handouts, but through trade and investments.
Now, I see you say that, Mr. Money. In saying that, Africa has also become a favorite destination for many celebrities, like Bono, Bob Geldof, Madonna, and Angelina Jolie. What's your opinion about Western celebrities in Africa?
Thank you, Mr. Akili. Now, I appreciate Western celebrities' efforts to help the people of Africa. But I would like to advise the Western movie stars, musicians, and other celebrities that don't use poverty and tragedies of Africa and African people for self-promotion. Let me repeat it again. Please don't use poverty and tragedies of Africa and African people for self-promotion. Again, we need all the help we can get, but the solution of our problem must come from us. We're not looking for saviors or heroes from outside, because our heroes and our saviors are right here among us.
Mr. President, our country, Maendeleo, is losing its citizens every day due to preventable diseases. What are you going to do differently if elected again to solve this problem?
That's a good question. It gives me a chance to tell you lots. We will invest more money in the health sector so that we can educate our people on how to prevent and fight these diseases. In the next 5 years, my government is planning to build more hospitals, especially in the rural areas where most of our people live. We are also planning to train more doctors and nurses, and we will increase money in the health sector every year. If elected again, my government will fight all these diseases more vigorously than ever before. And with the help of our citizens, we will win this fight.
Ms. Amani, what are you going to do to solve this problem?
Mr. Akili, I believe the main cause of our country losing its citizens due to preventable diseases is poverty. And the long-term solution to this problem is creation of wealth, creation of jobs, increased income, and above all, improve the quality of life for all people. If elected, my government will double the current budget of the health sector to speed up and improve the quality of the healthcare system in our country. We will also invest more money to modernize our hospitals, our clinics, and our laboratories. Next, we will provide free basic health care to every person in this country. Quality of health care must not depend on the house you are born in. My government will have a nationwide strategic plan to treat and prevent these diseases. In the next 10 years, my government will make sure that every town or village has well-equipped modern clinics, hospitals with full-time doctors and nurses. My government will also raise the salaries of our doctors and nurses.
Are you forgetting something?
Mr. President, we must pay them very well. They are our frontline commanders and soldiers in the war against diseases.
Ms. Amani, the reality is that we don't have enough doctors and nurses in our country. Many of our doctors and nurses are leaving this country every year to go to the Western countries. We have to find a way to stop this brain drain.
Most of these doctors and nurses will leave our country, Mr. President. They have a love for this country. They love this country very much. But they go to Western countries to get better pay. If we pay them well here, they will stay. My government will improve our socio-economic conditions so that we can retain not only our doctors and nurses, but also our brightest and best minds in our country. A knowledge-driven economy depends on knowledgeable workers. We need all the best and brightest minds. That's why we must reverse this brain drain and bring back our doctors, our entrepreneurs, the engineers, scientists, teachers, and other professionals who are all over the world to build our country. Maendeleo cannot afford to lose this human capital, which is the most valuable asset in today's knowledge economy. And for those who will stay, who decides to stay abroad, my government will encourage them to contribute their intellect, skills, and financial capital to the development of our country. We must also strengthen our relationship with our brothers and sisters of African descendants from the United States, Caribbean islands to Brazil, and work together to bring hope, dignity, and prosperity to every black person in this world.
Mr. President, Ms. Amani promises the people of our country to reform the entire education system if she is elected. She is saying that our current education system was not designed for us. Do you think we need to reform our education system?
No, I don't think we need to reform our education system. No. Our education system is fine. What we need is to improve its quality by hiring well-trained teachers, provide books to our students, and build better schools.
Yes, we need qualified teachers, books, and better schools, Mr. President. But most importantly, I believe we need to reform our current education system, which was not designed to meet our needs and solve our challenges. We need relevant education. How can we expect our people to solve 21st century problems while our school provides 20th century education? First, we need an education system that provides high-quality 21st century education and produces, number one, we need engineers who can design machines and tools to help our farmers to work faster and more efficiently. Secondly, we need doctors, researchers, and pharmacists who can research and discover cures for diseases that affect our people. We also need computer scientists who can design customized these computers for our farmers. Next, we need an education system that will equip our students with tools to be successful in life. My government would like to see an education system that produces agents of change and not dreamers and blamers who wait for the government to do everything for them. We need the education system that produces innovators and designers of technology products and not consumers of technology alone. We need education system that must also produce entrepreneurs and visionary leaders. Again, I am saying we need to reform our education system and invest more money and other resources to make sure that our schools provide high-quality 21st century education.
Now, Mr. President, the majority of our people in Maendeleo live in poor conditions. how can you be optimistic about our future?
Well, I am very optimistic about our future. I am very optimistic about the future of this country. But at the same time, I have to be realistic. I know we will face many challenges and setbacks along the way, but at the end of the road, Maendeleo will be victorious in this war against poverty.
Now look, both of you, we are almost out of time.
I thought we had just started.
Well, I know, but we have a lot of issues to cover. But the time does not allow us to do so today. Before we go to closing arguments, Mr. President, some people are concerned about the deterioration of the media freedom in Maendeleo. For example, last month, Maendeleo newspaper was shut down for criticizing your government. Can you address the freedom of press issue here?
Without a doubt. My fellow citizens, I am a supporter of freedom of speech and freedom of the press. But I will not allow unprofessional and corrupt journalism to destroy our country. We accept criticism, constructive criticism, but not lies and divisive news.
Ms. Amani, do you see it that way?
Mr. Kelly, I believe that the pen in the hands of irresponsible, corrupt, and unprofessional journalists can be equally dangerous like a nuclear bomb in the hand of a dictator. Our country must have room for only responsible journalists who educate, entertain, and enlighten and inform the public.
Now, Ms. Amani, the perception of many people, especially in the Western countries, is that African countries are poor, full of diseases, civil wars, and famine. How can we dispel these myths about our country in Western countries?
Mr. Kelly, I believe that one of the best ways to dispel the myth is to start telling our story. Because for a long time, we have let other people, especially the Western media, to tell our story. They have done a good job to paint a negative image about our continent. The sad part of this is that these negative images have affected our foreign investment, trade, and tourism. Many investors or tourists don't want to visit, invest, or even trade with that country because of the negative perception they have about Africa. These negative images also made most people in the Western countries to think that Africans are helpless, hopeless, and beggars. Please let me say this. If there is anybody out there from the Western country who is watching this debate today, I want you to know that Africans are not helpless, hopeless, or beggars, like the way we have been portrayed. Africans are optimistic, intelligent, strong, hardworking, and energetic, and full of hope. My dear friends, Africa is not poor. Africa is rich in culture, oil, minerals, and other natural resources. With good leadership, Maendeleo and other African countries will not need handouts from the West. My fellow citizens, it is our responsibility to proactively dispel the myth about our country and our continent and enhance our image and stature in the world. We cannot stand on the sideline like President Matata and let other people define who we are. We must offer a positive perspective.
I must.
Hold on, Mr. President, just one moment.
We must offer a positive perspective of our country and change the way the Western countries think about us. That is by painting to them the true picture of our country. We cannot continue to let somebody else tell our story. It's time for us to tell our own story. It's time for us to develop positive and consistent brand image of Africa and Maendeleo.
Can I now?
No, just one moment, Mr. President. We are about out of time. It is now time for closing statements. And following the order determined by the drawing, The first closing statement is to you, Mr. President. You may speak now.
Well, thank you, Mr. Akili. My fellow citizens, this election is about the future of our country. I am here to assure you that the future of this nation will be in good hands if you elect me for your president. In the past 10 years, my government has achieved many successes, including economic growth of about 5% every year in the last 5 years, and a recorded high economic growth of 6% last year. We have reduced corruption in government by increasing transparency. And most important, our country is peaceful. But still, you and I know that we have a long way to go and many challenges to tackle to improve our standard of living. This is why Maendeleo needs somebody with a lot of experience in governance to lead this country to the promised land. My experience speaks for itself. I am better equipped to be the president of this country than my opponent. I know the mothers, fathers, daughters, and sons of this nation have dreams for better lives. My promise to you is that my government will work with you to make these dreams come true. But we all have to wake up from dreams and start working together to build our future and fulfill our dreams. I believe the future of this country will be brighter tomorrow than today. And yes, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is a light at the end of this challenging tunnel. Together we can do it. Thank you very much. God bless Maendeleo. And thank you, Mr. Akili.
You're welcome, Mr. President. Ms. Amani, your closing statement, please.
Thank you, Mr. Akili. Thank you for moderating this debate. In the past 18 months, I have traveled all over this country to listen to what the people of Maendeleo want. I met mothers, fathers, teachers, doctors, young people, just to mention a few. All of them, regardless of gender, religion, ethnic group, or age group, want a better quality of life. They told me that they need jobs, not handouts. They want to feed their children and educate them. They want better health care for them and their children. By the way, the 5% economic growth that the president is talking about does not reflect in poor conditions.
Look, let me...
Mr. President,
which majority of the people in this country live, Mr. President. President Matata, your administration has failed to deliver a better life for poor people of this country. My government will make sure that the economic growth must not benefit only few political elites, but all the people of Maendeleo. My fellow citizens, the core problem of this country is leadership. And in order to develop our country, we need an effective leader who is committed, honest, care, and love this country and its people dearly. Not corrupt leaders.
Look, must I...
who
Mr.
enriches
President,
himself
you've already had
and
your
his
turn.
friends. But visionary leaders who will inspire people and committed to their well-being. Not an arrogant leader, but servant, humble leader.
I must object.
Mr. President, you've had your turn.
Not the same old leadership with the same old solution, but a new breed of young visionary leaders with new solution. Again, we have to drive our own bus, but we need a driver who has a vision and love for this country and its people. That leader is me. My fellow citizens, I believe if we work together, we can rise from the ashes of poverty and build prosperity and a peaceful nation for all. God bless Africa. God bless Maendeleo. Thank you very much.
That is the end of this debate. I hope this debate will be a beginning of constructive discussions about many issues facing our country today and our continent, especially the issue of leadership. I also hope that the debate will inspire the people of Maendeleo and other African countries to challenge African leaders to bring new vision, fresh ideas, innovative thinking, and actions to meet our challenge of the 21st century. Thank you, President Matata.
Thank you, Mr. Akili.
And thank you, Ms. Amani.
Thank you, Mr. Akili.
From FaceOff Studios, I'm Bolden Akili, and thank you for watching.
Thank you, Raymond.